Okay, you guys. Looks like I wanted to change and bring you a different. Instead of coming on with a girl dad, I wanted to help some of you girl dads out by bringing on a mental health coach to give us some other point of views of this. So that's why I wanted to bring Coach on. And she also has a basketball background. So that's going to help us a lot. So all you girl dads, check it out. This thing is mental health is real.
Yeah, and actually, let me even pause and correct there. I don't even do mental health. I do mental performance. And
Okay.
I think this is even something that a lot of people don't, they think it's the same thing. So just to kind of give a quick differentiator on how they are different from each other, think of mental health like the training room, right? Mental health in the training room are where you go when you already kind of have an issue, you have something you're struggling with, some kind of injury, right? That would be like the injury for your mind, anxiety, depression, all that kind of stuff. Mental performance is like this, the weight room. So mental performance is what you do beforehand so you don't end up in the training room. So you don't deal with performance anxiety. So you don't deal with some of these mental health crises that we're seeing. That's where mental performance kind of comes in and tackles these before it even gets to that point.
Well, that's good stuff. I'm glad we got classified. You got that corrected as what that is.
Yeah.
But I know that it is so real to have mental performance in all sports. So,
Mental health and performance, right? Like they're both very important. Like
uh-huh.
I mean, Quincy knows this as a D1 athlete, like you know.
Mhm.
I mean, the training room is equally as important as the weight room. They
Yeah.
both have their they're both equally important, but they just serve very different roles.
Gotcha.
And do you think that is something that you had a personal experience with? Give us some background on kind of like where you're from, where when you started playing, because we know you have a basketball background, and I know that also plays a part in, your journey into finding your new career field in performance development and all of it. So give
Yeah.
us a little rundown.
Well, I'm originally from New Mexico, Las Vegas, New Mexico. Not many people know about the OG,
Ah,
the original Las Vegas. I played my college ball at Adams State. It's a Division II over in Colorado. And during my time there at Adams State, one of my assistant coaches actually, she was with me my freshman year. And then after that, she actually went to work with the cadets in, I think it was the Navy, one of those. Anyway, she was with one of those working with the cadets on their mental game. And we stayed in touch. And through her, I just got very interested and intrigued in the mental game. Like if I can, and Q knows like there's sometimes like, you're not the tallest, we're definitely not the biggest, sometimes you need to develop that edge in a different way. And for me, if you see me in person, you'll realize too, like there's nothing physically outstanding about me. And so I knew if I wanted to develop an edge, I had to do that in a different way. And that, that started out in college, but it definitely grew once I went pro. Because once I made it to the professional ranks, like everybody's good, everybody can play. But what is it about you that's going to separate you from the rest of the best? And, it's a cutthroat way of life out there. I had 2 Americans on my team who didn't make it through the season. And like I say, it was my skill that got me there, but it was my mindset and my mental strength that kept me there.
yeah.
I feel like that's always like a big thing, that mental strength, especially that tool being used in college. It's difficult. You go through a lot of different roller coasters, especially being, a freshman coming in. Like for instance, you, VJ, you met me my freshman year. That was difficult. You're coming as an 18-year-old, you're not transferring, I'm sorry. You're going into college, you're meeting new people, and you're used to being that girl, but everybody's that girl. You know what I'm saying? So I think that mental aspect, you kind of either you come in with it or you learn how to get it. So
So let
I
me
think
ask you too, because I love in the podcast too, I love kind of flipping it and asking you questions too.
yeah,
Like, how did you develop that mental strength to get you through your freshman year?
honestly, I would say I honestly don't feel like I really had too much of it, but besides like, what, I'm just gonna come in every day and just keep going. Every day I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just keep pedaling. I felt like at that moment, like looking back on it, I could feel like, well, maybe I did have some strength. In that moment, it did not feel like it. It kind of just felt like, let me just get through the season. Like, let me just get through it. I think the way I developed it over time was taking that experience my freshman year and looking in on within myself and kind of like, okay, so what could I can control? And then kind of also seeing it as fuel of what other people didn't see in me. So
Yeah.
it was kind of mixing those things, I guess, kind of helped me grow later. But in that moment, I didn't even feel like I had it. I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of like, I'm just gonna go in. I gotta go. So
Yeah. So would you say like your freshman year, tell me about your confidence. Like on a scale of 1 to 10,
Man.
10 being high, 1 being low, like where was your confidence your freshman year?
I would say probably a 3. At least
Yeah.
I knew I'm supposed to be there, but I definitely was like a 3 because it's kind of like you only have like the certain people that are pouring into you because in college they can't really pay attention to every single person on the court. So like once you find your main group of ones that'll be playing, it's kind of like the rest of us are kind of strays. So that's kind of what I felt like in that moment. So like my confidence is definitely a 3.
And then going to your senior year, I mean, like you, and I'll just say it, like you balled out. I mean,
Yeah.
accolades, accomplishments, this, that, and the other. Like, what was the biggest difference? I'm just curious, as a mental performance coach, like, where would you say that the main driver of your confidence comes from?
My support system, my family. I think I didn't realize how valuable they were to me, but also that I can actually do it on my own. I think like a mixture of my freshman year not really knowing, and I was away from my like that unknown of really what you really need to. Yes, I need my support system, but also I went to Oklahoma State my last year, so it wasn't like they were around all the time, but they were able to come up. But I also learned to be like that my own self-discipline, like what I could control. Like, hey, I'm going to get in the gym every day after practice. You can get in with me or you cannot. Those connections with having the practice players come in and rebound for you every day before practice, like the little stuff to fuel me. So when I am knocking those shots down, it's because of that repetition. I didn't know how important that was for me until I think my senior year that fueled it. All that hard work, it fueled on top of just, I'm not getting passed up again. Like that's kind of like how I felt coming out of my freshman year. And I was like, yeah, to my senior, I feel like that's where I kind of grew at.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch.
I'm sure. As a girl dad, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Imagine.
But on the mental side, do you think, just not in basketball, when you said, when I was doing homework on you, and today somebody popped up in tennis, how tough mentally it is in tennis to be a certain level. Do you think that basketball is going to evolve to the point where it's just going to be natural? You're going to have a mental performance person in your circle to make this whole, I'm talking high level players or even mid-level players, that you're going to have that type of person in your camp for you to grow.
I think we're getting closer and closer to that. More like you see the tennis pros and the golf pros, and these are individual sports. And so you think that's very much a mind game. But when you start talking team sports, the basketball, football, volleyball, softball, that kind of stuff, especially now in the age of NIL, I think it's growing more prevalent than ever, because even though these are team sports, because of the NIL structure, they're kind of sort of shifting into more of an individualistic way of being at the same time. And so like, you're on a team, but at the same time, like you're probably, I don't know, like, are you still going to be on this team? Or are you just looking for the next step up? So I think NIL is drastically changing so many different dynamics in the sport.
Yeah, they're branding and making it individualized, and college basketball is becoming a professional sport. So it's not college where when you and I were coming, where you just get a scholarship. Now there's some other things involved with it, but
you're dating us now, Carrie.
Yeah, I know, but I do believe that the mental part of it, the mental solution, I believe that you should want to have that. You should want to be able to be able to, like you say, use that in the weight room, and that mental toughness. Back in the day, we always just say, be tough. You got to be tough mentally. So I believe it's coming. I believe it's here.
But what does that look like to you, VJ? How have you noticed that being implemented, or how your help implements that in programs or anything like that? Because it's not just like you need to be like, I feel like that is the difference between now and then, because while you were coming up, that is, you need to be this, and it was that. But with my generation, no, we don't have to do, like, we're the defiant generation. So if we don't want to, you have to find like a different way to reach us besides trying to, like, if you don't, it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work, especially with NIL. That doesn't work. So I feel like where somebody like VJ comes in, where we're more receptive to that. I wouldn't say soft coaching. I would just say it's a different, I'm trying to figure out the words for it, but it's not soft. I feel like we need understanding before we can make any type of,
right? It's intentional coaching. It's intentional. It's transformative coaching instead of transactional coaching, right? I want to coach you to bring out the best person and athlete, not just the best athlete. That's very transactional. And so I think the first step with most of this too is just getting people to understand the basis of it. And so the first thing that I teach when it comes to just as a human being, okay, there's 3 things and 3 things only that we can train. We can train our body, we can train our craft, and we can train our mind. Now, when you think about the typical athlete, they only ever train the first 2, right? Training your body, that's the weight room, your strength and conditioning, your plyometrics, agilities, all that kind of stuff. That's even the training room a little bit with the recovery part of it. And then the second aspect, the craft, obviously dependent on your sport. If we're talking basketball, that's your ability to pass, shoot, dribble, all that kind of stuff, right? And most athletes, they only ever spend their time on those 2. But let me just clarify here and also say that even when I'm working with an athlete, I typically say, like, if you haven't put in, 8 to 10,000 hours on your craft, it's probably too early for you to work with me anyway. Because when we talk about confidence, right? And here's the thing that I'm very passionate about, and one of my main drivers in teaching is confidence. There's 6 different sources, but let me just talk about the inner sources of confidence for the sake of time. Number 1 is practice and preparation, right? You can only really be confident in the things you're competent in. And the only way to develop competence is to put in the time, to put in the work. There's no substitute for good old-fashioned hard work. And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I'm talking to the athletes out there. And the second source of confidence, and this is the big one, it comes down to your mindset and your self-talk. Because if you allow it to, and Q, you know this as a freshman, your freshman year, if you allow it to, regardless of how much time you've put into your craft, you can have 10,000, 12 hours, 14,000 hours of work behind you. But if your mindset sucks, so will your performance. And this is the main driver and where I come in and kind of help these athletes overcome, and coaches too. Sometimes, right? It's not just athletes that deal with anxieties and imposter syndrome and all this kind of stuff. And then just kind of going full circle, the third source of confidence comes down to just good old fashioned courage. Because sometimes, like, you are going to put in the time, you are going to understand the significance of speaking to yourself with power over poison. And yet there will still be situations where you aren't confident. In those times, you just got to put your foot forward. And I call it getting out of your dead zone. You know it as your comfort zone. I despise that term because a comfort zone is a beautiful place where you will never grow. So I call it like it is. It's a dead zone. And when you take a step outside your dead zone into your full potential, then and only then, when you dare to try, will you become your best and most confident self.
Yes.
And do you think that ever fuels from, I know like some players, they can have coaching that may not have the same confidence in them. Do you think that could help, like that could be detrimental to their own confidence? Or how would you come in with that if they were to come with you with those type of anxieties? And because I don't believe those are things that can be fixed in a training room. They could talk to you, but that I feel like that kind of goes in line with that mental toughness in a way. But like, how can they approach that better when it's
so you're kind of talking about if there's like a demeaning or demoralizing coach in a sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, and so here we go. Let's just talk about the outer sources of confidence, right? So those are the inner sources. Those are what you can control, where you should put your focus, build your foundation. The outer sources, and here's the thing, like I travel the country speaking and working with teams and athletes, right? And I always ask this question: where do you get your confidence from? Surprisingly and honestly, 98.9% of the time, the number one response I get, they'll name my mom, my dad, a coach, my support system, my family. And so what that's telling me across the board is where majority of humanity, not just athletes, but just people in general, we tend to find our confidence in other people's validation.
Agreed.
Right? And so when you're talking about like, when I say like, I find my confidence from my coach or my dad or my mom, or even a teammate or a brother or sister, whoever that is. But what happens when you don't get that validation? What happens if they're not motivating you, but actually doing the opposite, demeaning and demoralizing? Now what happens? Your confidence doesn't stand a chance, right? And so the main thing too, and when I come in and teach this stuff, number one is just being aware. Where are you putting your foundation of confidence? Where are you building that on? So first source, validation. Second source, comparison, especially as athletes. You go walk into a gym, doesn't matter the age. If you walk into a basketball camp, what's the first thing you do as an athlete once you step foot in that gym?
See who else is in here. Who else
Comparing
is in
yourself.
here?
Like,
Yeah.
how do I measure up in this gym? Like that's the way kind of we're wired as human beings, not just as athletes, but especially as athletes, because we're competitive. We're hyper competitive beings. And then the third source comes down to recent success. Right. And so a lot of times, like we find our confidence based off of the recent accolades or the good games that I had. Hey, I had a 20-point game. I've been averaging 30 points a game. Like you get confidence from that. But if we depend on it, the moment you don't have a good game, The moment you have an off day, now your confidence is all over the place again. And that's why you see confidence doing this when you talk about those 3 outer sources of confidence. And so talking about, the demeaning and demoralizing coaches, unfortunately, they're still in the game. Unfortunately, they're still around, and I think they always will be. But as an athlete, it's just understanding, like, I don't get my confidence from them. My self-worth is not dependent on what you think of me.
That's like the biggest one. I feel like once people or other athletes understand that, I feel like that's where it kind of, I wouldn't say gets easier, but it's like a weight lifted off you. Cause it's kind of like you just, I don't know. Cause I mean, like I didn't have a demoralizing or any type of coach, but I did lack confidence because I didn't feel like I got it from my coaches. I will agree with that. And once I figured out that I don't need it from them, I felt so much better about myself. And I feel like that's why I was able to perform better with myself. I feel like that I like agree with that. I didn't even know I was going through that. It was kind of like just myself, like, come on, like you worked hard. Like I would say like your support system feeding into you. Like you don't need that from them. Like you start to realize yourself, like you don't need that. Like I don't need that. Like I thought I needed that because I've been getting that my whole life.
Right.
So it's kind of like now that I don't have it, I'm kind of like, man, is this real? Like why what changed in college? Why aren't they giving that to me? And it's more of like you don't need that. That's
Yeah.
big.
And I think it's so hard the transition going into your freshman year, because you have had all of those 6 sources of confidence working for you in high school. And then you get to the college ranks, and like you said, Q, like everybody's the man or the woman. Like everybody here can hoop, everybody can play. And then when you also don't get that validation, now you're questioning because you don't have any recent success to base it off of, because you're brand new here. You're starting literally from the bottom. And that's, whether you go from JV to varsity or varsity to college to pro, like it just transitions every step you go. And so the sooner you can, as an athlete, and Q, I know you can attest to this because like I saw your transformation live, just amazing with your confidence. And I think honestly, it just comes down to a belief in yourself at the end of the day.
Definitely.
No, that's so I don't even know honestly how it even started for myself, but I know that I took a lot of whatever I had gone through my freshman year. That's why I always tell people like you're gonna have some rain. That's like my favorite thing. No rain, no flowers. Mm-hmm. So like without that, you can't grow from it. So I do definitely I just love that. Like that's so real to a lot of athletes. And I knew that you would be able to speak on it best because you also were an athlete yourself. And didn't you faced injury, didn't you? Like, is that why you stopped playing pro, or what was your reason of why you stopped playing pro?
Yeah, my body just hurt.
Yeah.
My body was just like, nope, BJ, we're not doing this again. And also part of it too, I was playing in Thessaloniki, Greece, and moving forward, I had an offer to go play in Athens and an offer to go play in Germany. And I just had such an amazing experience in my time there in Thessaloniki, and I knew that I couldn't top it. I mean, I basically like got adopted into a Greek family, so much so that I was the maid of honor in their wedding years ago. Like I go back to visit, like, I'm very much Greek. Ime Elinida, I claim to be Greek, even though I'm not, but I claim like it was just that awesome of an experience. And I was like, I just can't top this. My body started hurting, at the time, I think I was like 20 pounds heavier than I am now, 25 even. Like my joints weren't handling that weight, but I needed to be at that weight to compete at that level. Mm-hmm. And so with my body telling me, and then I got an offer to start coaching, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to shift my career trajectory and kind of start on the next thing.
And with your coaching, what were the roles you played? I know you were at two different schools. You were at UNM with me, and I know you were at another one before UNM.
Yeah, I was at Western State, Colorado. Yeah, it's Division II up there in Colorado, Gunnison, Colorado. Beautiful, beautiful area. And then, got to UNM with you there with the Lobos. And then I left UNM in 2019 to pursue what I'm doing now full time.
I love that. And do you think any of your experiences as being a coach led you to that? Or was it strictly just kind of having that great mentorship at a young age when you were in college that kind of led you there? Or do you think some of any thing that you experienced or saw, you were like, I need to give back in a way, like this is my way of giving back to the game? Or what was that for you?
Honestly, for me, it was more, and it's still this way, I'm pretty sure with the NCAA rules, like if you're on a staff, a D1 staff, I don't even know if it matters the division, but if you're on a collegiate staff, you can only work with middle school and younger. And I had been doing like basketball training on the side with middle school kids and started rolling out some of my mental performance training. And I don't even know if I had you as one of my guinea pigs while I was at UNM. I was kind of like doing some mental performance stuff with some of the local players on
Me
the
and
side.
Jaden.
Yeah, you and Jaden, there you go. You guys were my guinea pigs there at New Mexico. And, it just got to a point where I started really enjoying the mental performance side of things more than the X's and O's side of things. And when I actually stopped and looked at where I wanted my career to be, what my future to look like, I couldn't see myself so much on the sidelines anymore. I wanted to be the one behind the sidelines, the one supporting and serving those athletes and coaches, and to be able to help more than just the 15 on that one team. Like, let me help 1,500. So, yeah.
No, that's big. I feel like that's what we need more than anything, because I feel like with all this NIL stuff, yes, there's gonna be coaching, but I feel like there's like a little less. Like, it's a little less of what we all are normally used to, and a lot of it is a lot of these players that are now in these big lights and these big stages and big names going around, and having that you might have a mental performance that you need an advancement with, like injuries all the time. Like, you could literally be past your injury and it's a mental block for you and it's not a physical block. So I feel like that's big too. I know a lot of my friends that have had like 2 ACL tears. They're like, her knee's fine, she's fine, but she's like, no, I can't do it. So it's like, girl, it's the mental aspect. I can't imagine that though. Like, I can't imagine having to relearn how to walk, all of it. So I understand the block, but it's like, it's awesome that I feel like, do you think they'll advance to having them on staff? Like,
yeah, there already are.
Or,
There's definitely already teams. You see some of the bigger schools that have mental performance coaches on staff.
Yeah, but definitely.
It's still a little bit behind. And so like, you think strength and conditioning, you think of strength and conditioning coaches, right? You have like these big schools, one coach for 2 teams. You have one mental performance coach for one school. So like one coach for like, 2,500 athletes or whatever. So we're still a little behind on the 8 ball there. But I think it's coming. I mean, there's so much research out there on mental health and mental performance and what it can do. So it's coming.
Yeah, there's no way one mental coach could maintain throughout I think each program needs their own person to specifically handle the ladies, guys have theirs, and you build a relationship with that, because that's a part of the mental part of it. So there's no way, and I do believe it's
or just starting off with basketball has theirs, football has 2, because they have a gazillion people. Track and field and cross country have theirs. Like, even if it's not specific to women's basketball and men's basketball, maybe having just one for both, because we have balancing schedules. We can have her, him or her here. Like, even if it's not every single person, because I would hope they get to that, but you just never know. We still have strength and conditioning coaches that are, again, like you said, with 4 different teams and still traveling with us. So it also depends on the level as well. So I definitely feel like,
and
budgets for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kim Mulkey will. Kim Mulkey got plenty of money, and Dawn Staley, I'm sure they all got theirs on deck.
I bet you they already have people on staff. I guarantee you. And and here's the thing, like, we're never shown on the websites, right? But between the lines, there's usually a mental performance coach somewhere there. And Q, you touched on something. You said it's the relationship. And that is so big and so profound, because when it comes to these conversations, like, there's a huge amount of vulnerability there. And if you don't have that relationship as a coach to the athlete, like, you're just never going to get to the root issue or the root cause. And so that's huge, to be able to have that relationship.
And understanding that they're not therapists. I know some people always love to confuse the two. Nobody likes to go to therapy. Nobody likes it. Well, that's not what I am. I'm not here. Like, therapists aren't really there to strengthen your mind. They're there to listen to you and excel and hopefully, give you some type of guidance, hopefully. But if not, that's not what a mental performance, what's the proper term? Like, I feel like I'm not saying
performance coach. Yeah.
Mental performance coach. Like, that's not what they're there for. They're there to help you get past that block in your performance. Correct? Am I?
Absolutely. And I'll say all the time, like, I am not here to hold your hand. And this is another thing too, why I think coaches like bringing me in, because I've served as a coach and as an athlete. So I've been on both sides of the coin. And so many times I think people who kind of do what I do, maybe this is just me, I guess I can't speak for every mental performance coach, but when an athlete comes in and they start ragging on their coach and they start ragging on this and that and the other, I don't come in here and say, oh, poor you, Coach shouldn't be talking to you like that. Like you deserve, like I just a hard stop. Like we're not going to come in here and complain and whine and, woe is me attitude. It's like, what can you do? What can you control? What can you focus on? Let's focus on these things. Let's get better at that. Let's just, shift. I know coach is going to be coach and coach is probably going to be demeaning, especially if you have a certain type of coach. But how can we work through this anyway? Because this is about your career. This is about you as an athlete, not coach. 10 years from now, coach is probably still going to be there. You have 4, sometimes 5 years now, and that's it. And so a lot of times, like I say, challenging you head on and always in your corner. Like I am going to be here to support you, but I'm also not going to let you just come in here and be mentally weak. Like it is my job to get you to see things a little bit differently, just shine it up, pass it back to you, and just give you a 180.
Yeah. And I feel like that's also important in the net, like when you pass college, when you have bosses like that. Like I feel like just being out in the real world, I feel like I've learned the real world. That's so funny. being out of college, that nice little ground. Like obviously I feel like being an athlete, I feel like it honestly did prepare me to be around a bunch of different people, being coached and mentored by a bunch of different people. And it may have been different ways. It could have been some belittling, like get off cussing at me, doing something. But like I learned that like how to get through that for myself, not to condone it, of course, but to get my best self still, not giving too much to the situation, not giving too much to myself, putting pity on yourself. Like you said, I feel like that's mental. That right there destroys your mental because you're feeding whatever else they're giving you and you're just digesting it every time and repeating it to yourself. So I feel
so how does a typical session go when you get your athletes? For my dads who want to get a concept of this, because I really believe it's valuable. How does a typical session go? When you bring in an athlete, you sit down, you evaluate. How's that go?
So it'll depend. Am I working with the team or am I working one-on-one? I don't do a ton of one-on-ones anymore. Honestly, I literally just this morning opened up my one-on-one coaching again for the first time in 2.5 years. Oh, wow. Like, yeah, it just got to a point 2.5 years ago. I had 18 clients one-on-one. It got to be too much with my travel and everything. And so I opened up literally 4 spots. 2 of them are already gone. And so if it's a one-on-one type of thing, it's just tell me where you're at. Tell me what you're struggling with. And here's the thing too, like when I'm working with athletes one-on-one, especially over Zoom, like it takes probably 4 or 5 sessions to really get to the meat and potatoes of it, right? Because again, we get to relationship. That relationship hasn't been established. That trust isn't there yet. They're still trying to figure me out. Like, what do you know? Do you care about me? And where are we going to go from here? And so those first few sessions, honestly, probably the first 3 to 5 sessions is me just kind of going over my systems with the athlete. Because a lot of times the athlete don't know what they don't know. So we go over the 6 sources of confidence. We go over ways to develop that confidence and for you to identify, like, tell me, which source do you feel like you're stuck in? If it's validation, we go over some of those strategies, like how do we be better with this? We'll go over some pressure performance insights. Like if you have performance anxiety or just performing under pressure, let's go over some of this stuff. And then by that time, once we kind of get to like the 5th session or whatever, and I've just given them so much of this information, then they start to have questions of their own. Then they can start to kind of identify for themselves like, oh, this is my problem. And I think so many times, especially as young athletes, I classify college athletes sometimes as young athletes too, they don't know what's going on. That's so much time what the mental block is that they don't even know what it is. But once they start learning a little bit more of what this entails, then they can identify, well, what's standing in their way? And then how do we jump over that hurdle?
That's good stuff. You guys hear that, you girl dads out there? This is why I want to coach on the show, so you guys can get some knowledge and get through this process. So I know you're busy and we got to probably land this plane pretty soon. Is there any way so some of my girl dads can get a hold of you?
They're not even just girl dads, coaches too. Coaches
anybody
we take it. She's not taking too many individuals. So bring your team, select teams. Y'all never know. Hey, if you're a select program that needs something like that, it is not just individual. VJ's made it clear that there's 2 spots left. So if y'all not gonna get active fast, try to book it with a team.
And honestly, I feel like teams it almost is a little bit better, if I'm being honest, because they're learning it together. They're going through the trenches together. And it's just so amazing too. Like some of the teams that I've worked with, and you see them in those pressure situations not even calling each other out, but reminding each other, like, hey, spotlight, or hey, remember that anchoring technique, or what it, like, it's a beautiful thing when you see the athletes start to take ownership and also hold their teammates accountable and remind them on those insights that they've learned. And so the team dynamic, I tell you, that's where the magic happens.
I always said that too. I like me a team workout versus an individual any day. A team one because we going through it together. We crying together. We soar together. We go through everything else throughout the season together. It only makes sense to go through a mental performance together. Let's do that. Let's do it. I think it'd be so great. I think it'd be great for them.
I'm so happy I had you on. I'm glad you took some time out to get with us, because I think it's going to be valuable to some of the girl dads and to coaches, like what you said, in all capacities. I think they'll be able to take a look at this and say, hey, look, we got to visit this. This is some serious stuff. So
and let them know where they can reach you at to schedule that. If there's social media, a website, shout it out right now so they know where to go.
Mentalitysolutions.com would be the best place for everything. So Mentality Solutions, it's got an online confidence course. So the Confidence Blueprint online course, that's on there now. It's been live for about a month now. On there too, there's a newsletter that I just rolled out 3 weeks ago now, but the second newsletter just went out yesterday. It's called The Mental Arena. And so that's just, it'll hit your inbox every other week. You can sign up for that on mentalitysolutions.com, and my contact information is there. So that's basically your one-stop shop for everything.
There you go.
We'll be putting that in our post. We'll be putting it all down there, so y'all don't even gotta. You're not watching the whole video. We're gonna have it in the.
I'll give y'all clips on it.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, Coach. And then all you girl dads, don't forget, visit the girldadpodcast.com on all of our social media platforms. You see it going strolling along in there, guys. I'm here for you. Hey, and all you diamonds in the rough, I'll be in Vegas and Chicago this next 2 weeks. So don't forget to send me your player profile cards. All right.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
You got it.